Hi everyone. I chose the novel 1793 by Laurie Halse Anderson. It was published in 2000 and she won the Margaret A. Edwards Award in 2009 for her works Catalyst, Speak, and Fever 1793. Fever 1793 is told from the point of view of young Matilda Cook, set in, you guessed it, 1793 in Philadelphia. The story revolves around her and her family's coffee house during the great epidemic of yellow fever. What starts out just as rumors and overreacting quickly turns into full evacuations and fleeing of the riverfront and ultimately the city. Matilda, or Maddie as she is referred to in the book, faces many struggles and hardships during these trying times just as she's coming of age. When we first meet Maddie, she is young, naive, and not fond of hard work or chores, but often daydreams of how she would run the family business and had she been given the chance to do so. We see her attitude towards such things change, however, after fleeing the city with her grandfather. As the story and times progress, Maddie is faced with new and difficult obstacles, leaving her feeling defeated and overwhelmed. But in most cases, she rises to the challenges and grows a little more each day. I chose a small passage that really struck me while I was reading this story, and I'm going to read it for you now. I broke off my daydream to take in our surroundings. Grandfather and the driver had stopped swapping stories. He turned to look back at me anxiously. We were in the center of a dying city. It was night in the middle of the day. Heat from the brick houses filled the street like a bake oven. Clouds shielded the sun. Colors were overshot with gray. No one was about. Businesses were closed and houses shuttered. I could hear a woman weeping. Some houses were barred against intruders. Yellow rags fluttered from railings and door knockers. Pus yellow. Fear yellow. To mark the homes of the sick and the dying. I caught sight of a few men walking, but they fled down alleys at the sound of the wagon. "What's that?" I asked, pointing to something on the marble steps of a 3-story house. "Don't look, Matilda," said grandfather. "Turn your head and say a prayer." I looked. It appeared to be a bundle of bed linens that had cast out of an upper window, and then I saw a leg and an arm. I chose this passage because it gives you a glimpse into the world that Maddie and her family and the rest of the population of Philadelphia, for that matter, had to endure during this time. It's very vivid imagery and really puts you in the story along with the characters. It's a good example of how the whole book is written. I personally would highly recommend this book. Firstly, it's well written with wonderful, colorful language that really puts you in the story. You really get a good glimpse of that from the section I just read. Second, if you're like me and want to learn more about history but can't seem to sit through boring old textbooks, this is a good way to open your eyes to the way the world used to be and kind of get an idea of what it might have been like to live during these dark times. Lastly, I think it would be a great way to ease yourself into history if you aren't exactly the biggest history buff but are interested in trying it out. It's a fantastic blend of storytelling along with some historical knowledge that may entice you to start looking deeper into the past. Well, I hope you enjoyed this book review and will take the time to read this wonderful book, Fever 1793.